Good morning. This is another Leon Valley update on Justin Pulliam, the leading source for Leon Valley news. Last week I reported live about the arrest of Olin Yarnell. He's one of the outspoken critics of Joe Savaggio's Leon Valley political establishment. He was arrested after an 8-hour marathon city council meeting. The arrest took place at about 2 a.m. in the morning, and then he was hauled off to the Bexar County Jail, where he later bonded out. I speculated at the time that the charges likely stem from one of the ringleaders of the political establishment, councilwoman Monica Alcocer. And now that we have the affidavit in hand, that turns out to be proven absolutely correct. So just to catch you up, I will replay the arrest. And when you watch this, I want you to pay attention when the victim who is arrested, when he asks what the charges are all about. The police department refused to tell him, give some story like, oh, it's on file with the DA, just to be pig-headed, because that's the conduct that we've come to expect from Leon Valley Police Department employees.
Looks like it.
He has a warrant for his arrest. First.
For what? Assaulted who? There's another news one in Bexar Township. Oh, don't have to have a record of who I've assaulted? The reporting on file with the district attorney?
It's just sickening. So first off, this the alleged offense took place after another marathon city council meeting, but that one was on May 7th. Not last month, not 2020. May 7th, 2019. Yes, this is an offense that happened well over a year ago. And they choose, after a meeting when Mr. Yarnell was quite effective at exposing their lies and pinning them in a corner, yes, they choose after that meeting to make their arrest. The arrest affidavit is based on a police report by Officer Chad Mandry. He's the big, oh, I'm telling you, this guy's so big they're going to have to buy a van for the police department fleet if he eats another hamburger. I requested a copy of the offense report from Leon Valley. They have not provided that information to me. It states that on or about May 7th, 2019, Olin Stanley Yarnell committed the offense of simple assault elderly disabled. Affiant's belief is based upon having read Leon Valley PD offense report. So the affiant is actually not the police officer. The affiant is some unknown person. Initials M and B. I can't really make out the ADA's name either, and certainly not the magistrate judge. I mean, which judge was it? This is getting ridiculous. We're supposed to, it's basically in 2020, we are attacked by unknown anonymous members of the government who seek to advance public policy every legislative session to become more and more secret, and they attack us. It's just insane. These things should be of the utmost transparency, but they're not. So, unknown affiant's belief based off of something they weren't there for. This is how your justice system works. It's insane. Based on the offense report under case number 2019-00-2138 concerning Olin Stanley Yarnell, in which Officer C. Mandry wrote that Monica Alcocer stated on or about the 8th day of May 2019, Olin Stanley Yarnell did intentionally and knowingly cause physical contact with another, namely Monica Alcocer, when the defendant knew and should have reasonably had believed that the complainant would regard the contact as offensive and provocative by grabbing the complainant with the hand of the defendant. And the complainant was an elderly individual, a person who is 65 years or older. Mandry further wrote in an offense report that complainant informed him that after a city council meeting that went late into the night, she headed to the bathroom, That defendant, who had been the last person to address the council, grabbed complainant by the shoulder and roughly turned her around to demand that she be more polite to him. Complainant stated that defendant's grip was strong and that this action caused her pain, and that she recoiled from his grab, which caused her further pain. It occurred at City Hall, and the complainant knows the defendant. Supposedly, they were once friends even, so I hear. So here's the original complaint, and these were all filed and made formal on March 23rd, many months ago. Yet, they waited until the time to give a political hit for someone who most effectively exposed their corruption, their lies, and their abuse at a city council meeting. I wish to give a very special thank you to everyone who has supported Mr. Yarnell. We've had from over 100 donors. We've raised almost $3,000 to help with his bond, which we easily covered, and his attorney fees, which hopefully we'll get pretty close to. The link to that PayPal pool is below if you want to check out the impressive showing from around the world that's come out to support him, as well as read some of the comments. They're pretty good. I just really appreciate all of you who stepped up to the plate and put your money where your mouth is, and let the tyrants at Leon Valley know that we're not letting anyone go down. We're behind them all the way. And so the plan with that, he's going to meet with his attorney either later this week or next week, and we're hoping we can just transfer it straight over to an account with the attorney. And I just, again, he was just overwhelmed with, he just couldn't believe it. And so thank all of y'all. Thank you so much. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. Thank you. All right, I know I said good morning earlier. This is probably going to be released in the afternoon or evening. I noticed that Lapdog, Establishment News, Media, KSAT, and the friendly reporter Patty Santos had information that was in the police offense report that I had previously requested and had not received. And so today I worked on getting that, and here you have it, the incident report 2019-02138. And so what we have is, like usual, unlawfully redacted information. They just do whatever they want at Leon Valley. And so the name and identification information of the complainant is basic information about a crime that's subject to required public disclosure. But we already know that it's Councilwoman Alcacer anyways. And so they identify both the alleged offender and the victim are around the same age, 77, 78. And interestingly, the two witnesses, as you'll see in the video in just a minute, one is David Jordan. He's the black city councilman you saw working with Monica to shut Benny Martinez down. And then a few minutes later, trying to shut down the discussion about Mr. Yarnell getting answers to the questions he had. And then the other witness is the city secretary. And before I start, I do want to point out this is very, very pertinent information that's kind of buried in the story. And this is Monica herself admits that her and Mr. Yarnell used to be amicable with each other. And so they're trying to paint it one way. In reality, this is two people that I guess politics first when you're the political establishment. Forget your friends. So the narrative says that it wasn't reported until the next day after 5 p.m., even though there were plenty of police officers up at City Hall, and they could have interviewed witnesses and done action at the time. For whatever reason, they didn't. So based on this language, we can see that the fat officer is already trying to make it into some sort of like retaliation or special thing about her being a public official, even though Mr. Yarnell, as a public official at Leon Valley at the time, was. So anyway, she is at a location in the performance of her duties as a city council official for a scheduled session open to the public. The meeting continued past midnight and early into the morning. As she was walking from the city council chamber seat, she stated she was going to the restroom. As she approached the door leading to the restroom, she felt an unwanted contact, and this is kind of unclear. This is the door to the city council chambers, I believe, after reading this about 5 times. If Mandry was intelligent, he would probably not be doing the work he's doing right now. She felt an unwanted contact on her right shoulder, top of arm. Yarnell grabbed her with his right hand as she was walking away and stated, quote, "I need to talk to you about being nice," unquote. I'm pretty sure Monica wasn't going to have any such discussion like that. She's a piece of work, isn't she? Monica felt immediate pain. She described Mr. Yarnell to have a large hand, which when he grabbed her, she felt pain as if applied through the fingertips, causing immediate concern. She described his voice as concerning. His voice was concerning, or a tone not of that of normal speech. This was done while she was walking towards and through the doorway leading to the woman's restroom, and she immediately responded, "Why did you have to hurt me?" She then instinctually pulled away, stating the motion of breaking his grip caused her more pain, a feeling that force was still involved, and it was not a gentle pat or touch kind of contact. Apparently they had an exchange. "Why did you have to hurt me? What did you say to me? Why did you have to hurt me? What did you say?" And that went on. At that point, both individuals were through the doorway when Monica happened to see Councilmember David Jordan. She described the look on his face to be concerning and focused, as if read to act or intervene to what he may have heard or seen. But apparently he did not, nor did anyone. Mr. Yarnell stopped the attempted contact at that point, and she continued to the restroom. So this is really, did he make the contact or not? Because now we're calling it attempted contact. When she left the restroom, she observed that Councilman Jordan was still standing outside the door, ensuring she was okay. She was shaking physically after the confrontation. When Monica re-entered the council chambers, the city secretary approached her, stating she observed what had occurred and to see if she was okay. Monica, point of order Alcacer, said that she felt there was animosity from Mr. Yarnell during the contact, and the method which he grabbed her and tone was not passive, more controlling. She was escorted to her vehicle at the conclusion of the official meeting, upset and nervous. What's interesting in this report, why are they not identifying the officers who were purportedly there escorting her? Again, Leon Valley leaves a lot of holes. Monica returned to the PD the next day to file a report, stating she had calmed down and was ready to discuss what had occurred. She continued to feel throbbing while the arm was stationary, as well as pain with movement. As a city council member, she is concerned by the actions of Mr. Yarnell. She and Mr. Yarnell used to be amicable with each other. She stated that he is upset since an incident involving him in a business within Leon Valley, which spurred an investigation into Mr. Yarnell's actions. And so background, what that is they were like trying to get him on official oppression for saying something to a business about a sign while having a name tag on or something. It's really ridiculous. And the projection here that Leon Valley officials of all would go after their political opposition for the crime of official oppression, which it's my firm belief that many people at Leon Valley have and continue to commit the offense of official oppression, yet no one in the government club is doing anything about them. So you can see here there's a history, though, of the political establishment trying to go after someone who they believe is no longer on their side politically. Alcacer stated concerns of potential retaliation in response to filing the state's police report, as well as due to her position on the city council. Patrol by was assigned at a place of residence as a proactive and potential deterring measure for safety and ease of mind. So there you have it. Politics as usual in Leon Valley, using the criminal justice system as a weapon to go after political opposition. It's ridiculous. The May 2019 meeting was not so dissimilar from the meeting that occurred last week. At that meeting, he asked the tough questions, and Monica Alcacer tried to shut him down.
Number 9, citizens to be heard. Is there anybody in the chambers that would like to address the council before we say good night or good morning? Oh.
Since I was refrained from making my statement earlier,
Okay.
I'd like to do it and citizens be heard. Can we turn the lights on?
Mayor, may I make a comment, please? Basically, the same comment as before, due to the fact that this issue is still before us. I asked legal advice in reference to allowing him to speak from the floor. Mr. Martinez speaking from the floor, making a statement regarding this issue.
If a council member gets down from the body and goes and speaks at citizens to be heard, for an item that isn't on the agenda and nothing about the complaint other than the executive session, which we're not considering, that's actually an Open Meetings Act violation. Again, I'm not saying he can't say what he wants to say at the right time. It's just doing it right now is going to cause an Open Meetings Act violation. So I strongly urge you not to do that right now, Mr. Martinez.
How would that be a violation of the Open Meetings Act? Would you please explain that?
Are you going to give your statement in relation to any of the charges that are currently pending against you? If so, those are not on the agenda for discussion. As a member of the elected body, especially one where the charter allows you the ability to place things on the agenda for you to discuss, you stepping down from the body and going and talking as a citizen, the case law is rather clear that if it is something that is on the agenda for discussion, then you can't actually do that. That causes you to create or put a item in front of the whole body that you chose that the citizens didn't know you were going to talk about, and the citizens didn't show up to hear you talk about. And so that is what causes the violation.
I disagree with you, but then I wonder if I could have somebody else read this.
That laughter kind of tells it
That's
all.
up to you.
Yeah. I thought that on the citizens to be heard, if you could bring it up if it's not on the agenda, because we had a lot of people talk earlier today about, or earlier this evening about, the towing of cars and stuff like that, and we just can't. We can't respond back. We have to put it on an agenda for future. So I guess, I just wanted some clarification on that. But anyway.
And that's right. You can't respond to them because they're bringing up stuff
exactly.
that isn't posted for consideration. And I know we're thinking, well, why is it different? Why is the council treated differently when they're trying to do the exact same thing? But what the AG opinions and the case law says is that if you have the ability to place it on the agenda, that's actually a sneaky way to circumvent placing something on the agenda. that you want to tell the whole body, even though they're not, because just providing information to the body as a whole qualifies as deliberation under the Open Meetings Act. And so that's what the problem is. The problem is he actually has the ability to put stuff on the agenda, but he's not. He's trying to use the citizens to be heard section to talk about it. So that's what the case of city causes the problem.
By the same token, somebody else can't speak for him by reading his paper, can they? That isn't that citizen's.
You know, the conservative advice is no, don't do that. But I don't have a case out there that addressed it exactly like. So I think, you know.
We missed what you said, Mr. Henry.
I said that the conservative advice is to not do that because it can be treated the same. I have case law that supports a board member or council member can't do it. I don't think I've ever seen a reported case where they had someone else read it for them. So I have no idea how that would come out.
And if the person reading it is a board member, appointed board member, that might jeopardize his position by reading it, potentially?
Yes. And so if it is a citizen that is completely not employed, not related, not appointed, not anything else, would probably be the only safe way to do it.
There are none of those in this room, Mr. Henry.
Yeah, then I would suggest he not do it. That'll cause the problem. Again, it's not that he can't say what he wants to say. He's just got to say it at the right time, you know, when it's posted. The thing is, what he's talking about and addressing is the stuff that is posted for the 312 hearing. If we're going to post that subject for discussion deliberation, it has to be in a 312 hearing. So that's the quandary. That's kind of where you are right now. I highly advise not to do it because it will cause a problem directly. And tonight's discussion was just about the ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it something that...
the complaint...
Excuse me.
He still will have the ability to say what he wants to say. It's just tonight's discussion was the ordinance and the ordinance only. So that's what we were supposed to be talking about.
Okay. So you're saying that this can only be stated at the 312 hearing? Or is it something that if he gets a second, he can put it on the agenda? Or I don't know. I don't know what you were going to say, so I have no idea.
Well, if...
I'm just trying to clarify here.
The short answer is if he wants to give a statement regarding the complaints, he can really only do that in a 312 hearing.
All right.
Otherwise, he's risking a open meetings act violation. The more long, complex answer would give you a comparative hypothetical where it's not a 312 issue. So he could put something on the agenda the next time around and say what he wanted to say. But in this case, because it's a 312, if he puts that on the agenda, we're having a 312 hearing. So it kind of defeats the purpose.
Okay. All right. So...
May I ask a question?
You sure may.
Mr. Henry, this is Olin Yarnell. I live in Canterfield. I'm a board member of the EDC.
Yes, sir.
I'm a board member of EDC. And since I'm a board member, does that remove my right as a citizen? As you told me, as you seemed to indicate a while ago? Am I no longer a citizen of this city? Pardon me?
The way the case law works, by being appointed, you don't give up all rights, but you actually are subject to certain restrictions. And Open Meetings Act compliance is considered one of those.
Okay. I've already been up here twice this evening. Did I violate the open meetings law at that time?
You talked about matters regarding that weren't on the agenda, but have nothing to do with your board position. Is that correct?
That's correct. And this does not either.
But it's not what's your,
Pardon me, ma'am. I think we have the floor over here, please. Okay.
it's not, Mr. Henry, it's not his own statement.
Would you want to come and look, ma'am? I don't have anything in front of me. I have no idea what he's going to say.
Okay, you just wanted to speak.
I
Is that
want
what
to
you're
ask,
saying, as a
I want to ask
citizens
some
be heard?
questions about this process.
Okay, you go right ahead then. That is citizens to be heard. You bet.
Are we on citizens to be heard, or are we on item number 8.5?
Citizens be heard.
Citizens be heard.
So
We've already moved.
just because I walked out of the room, did we skip executive session?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yes, I'm
the part
sorry.
I was
I'm sorry. I didn't
confused on.
realize, Ms. Kinsler, that you were here. But we asked Mr. Henry if we needed it, and he said no, so we just switched over to citizens to be heard. So my apologies.
Gotcha.
I can't keep up with who's in and out. So yes, Mr. Yarnell, this is citizens be heard. So
Okay,
you're
thank
not
you.
going to read a statement. You just want to ask questions.
Right, I
That's
don't
fine.
have any idea what
You
he's
bet.
talking about.
You bet.
Okay. I would like to ask this for a copy of the contract that Mr. Henry has with the city of Leon Valley after he finished the first investigation. And I would like to have copies of everything that he's talked to any council members about during this whole investigation.
You would need to do an open records request through the city secretary to get that.
You can send
Can I
it
do
as
that
an
verbally?
email.
No,
Send
sir.
it as an email. It's real simple. Sandra's very responsive.
Those need to be done in writing.
Okay,
So it was any kind of, you're going to get us some case law. What else were you
I
going to get
want
us?
a copy of his contract.
His copy of his
That goes on
contract.
after the first investigation.
Yeah.
And I want a copy of any correspondence he's had.
Just
with
submit it in
the-
writing, sir.
I'm just trying to review what we've been talking about. It's been hours, so.
I realize that.
It's his request. He shouldn't need any help. It's his request. He can email it to the city secretary like everybody else that does a Freedom of Information Act request. He shouldn't need any tutoring from what to recommend.
I can't do this verbally?
No, sir.
No,
No, sir.
Thank you.
put it in writing. All righty. So it is now 12:46 a.m. on May the 8th, 2019. If there's no objection, move to adjourn. Thank you.
It's pretty clear to me that Salvaggio's political establishment at Leon Valley does not like the First Amendment. They try to silence anything they can when it comes to criticism of the government of Leon Valley. And so they're playing a game here where they're trying to shut down Benny Martinez. He was the councilman that they finally removed. Martinez was quite critical of the police department. Even got into a confrontation one time where they laid him out. I mean, they had him on the ground. And he was just a witness documenting what was going on in the neighborhood, doing a police audit, if you will. So they're trying to stifle his right to speak. Anyone can speak at a meeting, but they're trying to say, oh, since you're a member of the governing body, you need to put it on the agenda to be heard. And for open government, yes, that would be best. It would certainly be best, but I don't believe that it's a requirement. And so this attorney is Ryan Henry. He's the one who made tens and over $100,000 off of this whole deal with Benny Martinez. He's personally selected by the city manager. You have him, what appears to me is just saying what suits the political establishment, shutting down Benny Martinez. So he tries to talk and they immediately shut him down saying, oh, no, you can't do this. This is a open meetings violation. First off, I find that humorous because Leon Valley routinely violates the Open Meetings Act, the Open Records Act, probably all the acts that you can think of. So that they feign concern over violations of the Open Meetings Act is quite comical to begin with. Martinez, as far as I'm concerned, wasn't trying to pass any sort of measure or anything. We don't know what he was going to do. They didn't let him get a word out. they come in and say, well, you can't do it because it's not on the agenda. And they hide behind a thing in their city charter which says to be on the agenda, you have to have a second. So if you're just the one person with a viewpoint that is in the super minority, if you're a member of the public, you can get up there and say it. If you're in the majority of the council, you can say what they want to say. But their position now is that if you're that one single member, maybe Will Bradshaw now, might be that person, that you're just going to be totally cut off because you have to get a second to be on the agenda, and we're not going to provide that second. And if you're not on the agenda, we're going to shut you up because we're going to claim it's an open meetings violation. But the whole purpose of the Open Meetings Act is for assuring that the public has the opportunity to be informed concerning the transaction of public business. What was happening here was that they were trying to kick off Benny Martinez, and I guess he wanted to make some statement regarding that. Certainly, it does not serve the public to eliminate viewpoints, information about the transaction of government business under the guise of an open meetings violation should you share that information while also prohibiting it to be as a separate agenda item, right? So it's a preposterous situation. The public loses if the information's not brought out into the public. And so what's going on here, as Leon Valley has done so many times, they're trying to stifle speech. They're trying to stifle speech that is inconvenient to the political establishment. Just like they stifle me each and every meeting, they're stifling Benny Martinez here. They're violating his First Amendment rights. They're violating our rights because ultimately we don't get to know this information, and that's counterproductive to the whole Open Meetings Act, and just like so many things in Leon Valley. However, the Open Meetings Act also provides that at a meeting of a governmental body, a member of the public or a member of the governmental body inquires about a subject for which notice has not been given as required by the subchapter, that's i.e. an agenda item posted in time. The note that doesn't apply to a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry, or a recitation of existing policy in response to the inquiry. Remember how Mr. Yarnell asked what is this contract? He wanted to see the contract. And they said, oh, well, you have to do an open records request. See, that's another lie. He doesn't have to. In the state law, the state statute specifically permits them, as any good, open, transparent government would. They are permitted and should immediately respond with that information. He doesn't have to do a request in writing, and you can see how hard they were to shut all of that down. But this section also applies to Councilman Martinez. He's not deliberating. It's not an actionable item. He's just trying to make a point or get information. We really don't know because they shut him down. But the next part of this section is that any deliberation of or a decision about a subject of the inquiry shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. So to get around this thing where you're trying to censor the minority person, okay, well, let's at least have a debate, a discussion about whether or not this should be on the agenda so he can present next time. Well, the tyrannical city charter, and again, the city charter is really what makes Leon Valley so inhospitable with this horrible city manager who gets to run anything. Well, the city charter says, no discussion shall occur at a meeting regarding placement of the item on a future agenda. So they're trying to say, well, it has to be on the agenda. You have to have a second person to put it on the agenda. You can't discuss at a meeting the merits of putting it on the agenda. And if it's not on the agenda, they're going to claim that it's an open meetings violation, even though time and time has shown that they're really not concerned about that at all. It's just self-serving behavior. So I'm really trying to this is kind of complicated. The attorney says, oh, the case law. There's maybe one case that might somewhat support him, but that situation was different. That was about a presentation that was already added to the agenda. It just wasn't sufficiently explained what the presentation was about. In this case, they're refusing basically to put the presentation on the agenda, and so then the councilman's remedy is to speak during the public comment period. In fact, the Texas Attorney General's Open Meetings Handbook says that the act permits a member of the public or a member of the governmental body to raise a subject that has not been included in the notice for the meeting. If it were me, I would have brought it up and said, we need to put this presentation on the agenda. If they refused to entertain that, then I would have gone ahead and proceeded with my remarks, because my First Amendment right and the public's right to know ultimately, in my opinion, outweighs the city's noticing requirement, although the city should do the right thing and put the noticing requirement. So basically, the councilman is not in violation. The city is in violation. Again, it's preposterous, it's asinine, it's tyrannical, you name it, but that's the Leon Valley we've come to know.